Those of you who are taking Thesis seminar, I am creating this brief video overview of some of the feedback that I received, some common feedback that I was giving each one of you looking at your final drafts of your literature review. So I've made a list here, and this list is in no particular order, but I'll begin here by saying that anytime that I leave comments to your Word Online document that I shared with you at the beginning of the course, I would ask that you remove, after you've made the changes, that you can go ahead and remove those comments. Of course, if you have questions, you can reply to those same comments that I left and ask your questions, then email me and I'll take a look at those and try to answer it online. Or the second option would be to come and ask those questions face-to-face if there are more serious questions or questions that you think we would benefit from by having a face-to-face conversation. But make sure when you ask me to check your documents, if you've made the changes, to, again, please go ahead and remove those comments. The next point, students pay attention. I see sometimes some students use this phrase, pay attention, or students pay attention, somebody paying attention. And a lot of times we mean that the students or whomever are not noticing something. To not pay attention really means there's a lack of intent. So if someone is just not paying attention, means that there's no intent to pay attention. So a lot of times it's possible for students to actually try and make an effort to notice something, but they are unable to notice. And I think many times when I see the phrase pay attention, that we really mean they are not able to notice something going on in the classroom, and not necessarily they're not paying attention. Paying attention would be if they're sleeping in class or talking with their friends. That would be examples of not paying attention. And so be careful with the term pay attention if, in fact, this is the term that you really want to use. The next point, focus more on the concepts than the authors. Many are still focusing more on the authors by starting off a sentence by saying, according to Ellis. Ellis states that instead of focusing more on the concepts, where we put the author and the year and sometimes the page number in the citation, and typically we put that citation at the end of the sentence. Again, make sure that you find or you look at each sentence to make sure that if the sentence is not your original idea and not common knowledge, then you include a citation. Otherwise, it's an original idea and you do not need a citation in that case. But really look at each sentence individually to determine whether or not it's an original idea or whether or not it needs a citation. The next point. In some cases, some of the topic sentences are rather short, and you can oftentimes add more information to very short sentences by including a complex sentence, maybe add a subordinating clause, a relative clause, or some sort of prepositional phrase. These are ways that you can typically add more information to the topic sentences. So remember, the topic sentences should be claims, but if you need more information, and typically a simple sentence in many cases is often too short to state the main idea of your body paragraph. So again, I've listed a few ways or a few prompts, things to think about in determining how you can add more information to your topic sentence. Also think about the question words, how, why, when, etc. Remember, the topic sentences are more specific than the thesis statement, but more general than the supporting sentences that you include in each body paragraph. That's really the difficult thing about a topic sentence, is making sure that it's not too general or too specific. The next point, things to avoid. Absolutes, all, never, everyone, no one, etc. All teachers, all students, these are absolutes. Try to avoid absolutes throughout your text. Also, try to avoid the phrase "this means." A lot of times I'll see examples of evidence sentences with citations, and then the next sentence, "this means," and basically what you're doing is you're paraphrasing what you just said before. And so we don't want to paraphrase. Remember that the analysis sentence is to provide or describe why or how the evidence links back to the main idea. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. In fact, this video below is a very good short video explanation about the meal plan, specifically the analysis sentence, which sometimes can be confusing for students. The next point, another thing to avoid, the verb to be or the phrase there is or there are in the topic sentence. Of course, this also would apply to the thesis statement as well. But as you begin each of your body paragraphs, the main idea, the topic sentence, make sure to, for the most part, try to avoid the verb to be and there is or there are. The next thing, to try to avoid dictionaries and encyclopedias as references. So we do not want any references that come from Wikipedia, any type of online dictionary or physical dictionary or encyclopedia. Try to avoid that at all costs. Remember, for your references basically should only be articles or books. Try to avoid websites altogether. Articles are the best, specifically primary research articles where you're referencing actually some studies that support your claims or that support your topic sentences. Remember, topic sentences all should be claims, just as thesis statements should be claims. The next topic, rhyme and theme. Now, this deals a lot with cohesion. How can I connect ideas? How can you connect ideas from one sentence to the next? Typically within a body paragraph or with any type of paragraph. And think of basically two general patterns when we look at rhyme and theme. We can use the same theme and use a new rhyme. So for example, we could use the same theme and add a new rhyme. So Bob went to the store to get some bread, period. Next sentence. He later realized he forgot his wallet. So notice I use the pronoun he to reference Tom, and I'm basically using the same theme, although I'm using a pronoun, but I'm using a new rhyme. The rhyme is the new information, the theme is the old information, or the theme is what came first, rhyme is what came later. The second general pattern that you can follow is changing the rhyme to the theme. So if I say Bob went to the store and bought a bottle of milk, period, the next sentence you could say the milk that he bought was stale. So I just took information from the rhyme from the first sentence, milk, and I changed it to the theme in the second sentence. This is a very easy way to connect ideas, and you can do this again by looking at the prior sentence, finding out something that you can connect to as you continue the ideas. But if you do this, then your ideas tend to flow a little bit more, and you're not jumping around different ideas that aren't really linked. Okay, the next point, evidence. Citations should provide examples that explain what, why, what, how, why, when, and where, etc. So look at each evidence, each citation. Look back at the topic sentence and ask yourself, does this evidence, does this citation provide an example of what? Does it provide an example of how? Does it provide an example of why? And so on. This is what you need to consider and look at for each of your citations. If you do this, you find, or maybe you'll detect certain cases where maybe the evidence is off topic, or maybe it doesn't make sense to talk about maybe the where first and then the why. Maybe you want to talk about the why first and then the where within the same paragraph. But try to ask yourself those specific questions as you look very closely at your evidence sentences in terms of the topic sentence. Title placement. All right, so title placement, for this I want to open up a document. And this was the template that I shared with each of you at the beginning of the course. And I want to spend just a few minutes going over this to give you some tips on how to use the template in looking at the formats according to APA. So let me pull this up here. All right, so this is the template. And in fact, let me go back to the view and navigational pane. Notice here along the left-hand side that many of the headings that I've used, I'm using styles so that they are also included here in these headings. So when you look at this template, add your title here. Now, I just noticed this, and maybe it got removed on some of your documents. And I think many of you, I left a message or a comment to your document where I highlighted thesis manuscript. I think what I would rather you do is have you include the title here, 6 to 12 words, and then keep this thesis manuscript as it was in the original template. So I may have told you wrong in the other in your comments because I think in fact, I didn't see this in the templates that you're all using. So maybe it got lost somewhere along the line. But in any event, include your title here, include thesis manuscript here. Again, 6 to 12 words is a pretty good number of words. Make sure you capitalize the main words. It's in bold and it's centered to the page. You're running ahead. I would change the text, double click up here and change and add the first 5 or so words of your title that you include here, all in uppercase. So just change that. Here, notice there's no page numbers, so I basically designed this template so you don't have to worry about the page numbering. That should be automatic. Also down here, you want to add your full name in all uppercase. Here you want to add the title of your thesis as you have it up here. And add your name, again, all uppercase lettering. Now, I know it's italicized here, so please don't italicize. Just normal text in bold, centered to the page, main words are capitalized, no punctuation at the end of the heading. This is a level 1 heading, and this is the level 1 heading we'll use for the title of your paper. Now, scrolling down, just leave everything the way it is. For now, we're not going to be filling out these sections. Here, again, you're going to add your title. So this would be what, the 3rd or 4th place? 1, 2, 3, 4th place that you'll have your title. Again, 6 to 12 words. In bold, main words are capitalized, no punctuation at the end. Then begin with your introduction paragraph, along with your thesis statement. And then these are your headings, your level 2 headings that will represent the main sections of your literature review. For the length of this particular document, I think anywhere from 2 to 4 main sections with level 2 headings is sufficient. Level 2 headings are in bold, flush left, main words are capitalized, no punctuation at the end. Notice they're on their own line. So you'll have flush left. Notice your slider bars. Make sure that they're all the way to the left. And then you'll begin your first paragraph here. If you have, for example, 2 headings, 2 main level 2 headings, or 2 sections, you may need to add a level 3 heading. A level 3 heading is part of the paragraph. Notice there's an indentation. According to the slider bar here, we're at 0.5 inch indentation that should begin each of your body paragraphs. The only exception would be the abstract. There's no indentation for the abstract. But here you'll have level 3 heading, and level 3 heading, the first word is capitalized in bold, period at the end, begins the paragraph, add a space or 2, and then begin your topic sentence of this paragraph. Level 3 headings are optional, level 2 are mandatory. Again, anywhere from 2 to 4 is a pretty good number based on the length of this literature review. Approximately 2,250 words is what we're asking for this particular research project. Remember at the end to include your transition paragraph. We talked about it last Monday on February 27th, 2017. We discussed what to include in your transitional paragraph. To summarize, we want to include or restate the problem and thesis statement that you articulated in the introduction paragraph. Then provide the purpose of your study, followed by the research questions, and then close with a closing sentence of this paragraph. This is going to be the first time in your literature review that you actually reference your study. Make sure that you don't reference your study anywhere else throughout your literature review. Again, only this last paragraph and the transitional paragraph will be the only place that you introduce your research. Method section, we talked about two different options. I have listed here procedure. I think in the discussion we talked about research design. You can call this research design or procedure. For me, it's either way is fine. But here we have participants, then instruments, and procedure or research design. Then we have results and discussion. This is a level 1 heading. And again, we'll have our level 2 headings, the main sections of our results and discussion section. I left some examples of references. Make sure you follow APA. Find some examples. The reason I left some examples here is so that you can use this as a guide when you look at which text to italicize, which text to capitalize, spaces, punctuation, and so on. Take a look at these, and then please remove these once you've included your own references. You'll probably have a few appendices, so make sure that you, if you need to add some, go ahead and add some. You can leave these as they are and then include a level 2 heading that includes the title of your appendix. Each appendix should have a title, and again, use a level 2 heading for that purpose. So in this case, if you click on a level 2, notice I have a level 1 heading, level 2 heading according to APA. These are specific styles that I created for the purposes of this assignment. If you click on this for style 2, and this will correctly format your level 2 to add your heading for the appendix. If you use my template, for the most part, you should not have to adjust or change any of the text. Now, I did notice that some of the text, some of you may have, like if you click return here and then start a new paragraph, notice that my styles, I use the same style now. I have a different style here that I do here. This is a normal, this should be a normal text, and this should be normal as well. So again, using this template, if I undo this, all you need to do is just put your cursor here and you should be fine for the normal text. If you ever need to change it, just select the text, click normal, and in this case, you'll have to go back and add the indentation, but that should be enough that should fix the problem. So that's a brief overview of the templates. We'll go and close this. And we'll move on. Topic sentences. Remember the topic sentences, just as thesis statements, they are claims. Claims are debatable or arguable. Typically, we want to avoid the verb to be. We want dynamic verbs, and we want to take a position because our goal is to then create evidence or add evidence from other experts to support our topic sentences. So just take a look at each of your topic sentences. First, make sure you have a topic sentence, and then make sure that it's a claim. And then make sure that the evidence or the supporting sentences, the citations, state what, how, why, when, or where of the topic. Body paragraphs. Present the evidence first, then comment. I saw many cases where there was a lot of analysis before the evidence. So you have to present the evidence first, then you comment on that evidence. You can comment by comparing and contrasting, analyzing it, synthesizing it, talking about not only how it relates to the topic sentence of that particular paragraph, but you could also compare and contrast anything that you mentioned prior to that paragraph. Next point. When introducing a list of concepts in a body paragraph, avoid the list usually presented first and instead begin with the first. So when introducing a list of concepts in a body paragraph, avoid the list. A lot of times I'll see paragraphs with many terms, and maybe the second sentence, the second sentence you'll have a list, 3 things, and then after that list of 3 things, you'll start with the first and explain it, and the second and explain it. You don't need to present the list first. I would just present the first thing first, and then discuss it, comment on it, then present the second, comment on it, and so on. I don't think it's necessary, again, to present the list at the very beginning. The next point, meal plan. Basically, kind of repeating myself, introduce the evidence first, then comment. Now, I did include a list or a link to the meal plan. This is the video here. Very good, short video, about 5 or 6 minutes, but very precise. And I highly recommend that you take a look at this to get a simple review of the meal plan and what to ask yourself when you're creating the different types of sentences. Remember that overall, especially for the lit review, overall you should have more than 50% of your text as an original idea. Typically, the main idea, analyze the analysis sentences, and the linking or summarizing sentences at the end of each body paragraph come from your own original ideas. Next point, transitional paragraph. Make sure that you include that. I talked about that a few minutes ago in the template. If you need further assistance, take a look at the presentation that we talked about last Monday on February 27th, 2017. What to include in the introduction paragraph. Begin with a hook, then follow up with the context of the problem. Remember that your research needs to be based on a problem, needs to be something that is significant. And in order for it to be significant, there needs to be some sort of problem that you can communicate and share and introduce in the introduction paragraph, typically 3 to 5 sentences. Then transition to a thesis statement. This will be the last sentence of your introduction paragraph. Think about ways of transitioning by including introductory phrases like prepositional phrases. You can use subordinating clauses. Of course, you can use sentence connectors that not any sentence connector, however. For example, the addition type of sentence connectors we want to avoid, but maybe a contrasting sentence connector might be more appropriate. You might say, therefore, or as a result of this problem that I just talked about, this is my thesis statement. This is my topic. This is my opinion and reasons or ways that support the topic. Next point, use modals sparingly. Should, could, would, will. For the most part, you can avoid these modals. This also includes phrasal modals like has to, they have to, teachers have to do this, they ought to do this. So try to avoid modals for the most part. This speaks a lot about the tone of your work. And the last point, try to avoid or overuse demonstrative pronouns. And this is really important. For the most part, too, you can avoid demonstrative pronouns. If you find yourself using a demonstrative pronoun, just look at it and see if there's a way that you can reword it without using it altogether. If you must need it, if you think that it is appropriate, you need to use it. Make sure that it's very clear to the reader what you're referring to. So for example, if I'm going to say this process, the prior sentence or the prior sentences needs to have outlined a very specific process so that the reader in his or her own short-term memory can, without having to read back, can visualize this process when you say this process. Same goes when you say for these elements or whatever. Whatever you're referring back to needs to be very, very clear, and you don't want to have the reader have to go back and reread. Many cases, I saw several cases where there was actually, it wasn't even clear what the process was that the writer was referring to. And so we not only don't want that, we don't want the reader to even have to go back and reread, even if the process was outlined. So for the most part, I think we can avoid demonstrative pronouns or adjectives in this case, if you want to refer to this as an adjective, this process, these elements. These types of demonstrative adjectives or pronouns, I would try to avoid. So this is a general summary of the feedback that I gave. And again, if you do have questions, feel free to send me comments in your shared Word Online document, and or come by my office. We can take a look and discuss those in further detail if needed.